நாம் வெல்வோம். எமக்கான இந்த அழிவை இந்த சர்வதேசத்திடம் அதற்காக போராடுவோம். எமது பலத்தை காட்டி போராடுவோம். எமக்கான
இங்கே உணர்வு பெற்ற நாங்கள் இங்கே உணர்வு கொண்டு அனைத்துலக நாடுகளுக்கு எங்கள் உணர்வுகளை வெளிப்படுத்திக் கொண்டிருக்கும் வேளையில் ஐக்கிய நாடுகள் சபையின் மனித உரிமை ஆணையத்தின் பொறுப்பாளரோடு அங்கே பேச்சுவார்த்தைகள் இந்த நேரத்தில் இடம்பெற்றுக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றன. எங்கள் நீதிகளை எங்கள் நியாயங்களை இடைவிடாது வலியுறுத்துகின்ற வகையில்
institutionalized genocidal policies against Tamils. Nor has it reaped any benefits to the singular working class. Global powers have used the qualms of the Tamil nation to build their neo-colonial empires and guarantee their geopolitical gains. The recent visit of the Human Rights Commissioner and further high-profile visits to the island has only eased the pressure on Sri Lanka and increased their foreign investment flow. As a human rights activist and a human being, I am ashamed to see an institution that needs to stand with the victims and unapologetically voice for the rights and dignity of human beings being diminished to serve only as an intricate mouthpiece for a few national interests. We understand that the world is constantly evolving and we are in a very precarious situation. Today, I would like to recall a few words of Taliban. Baralar and Valigati. Yes, history is the guide at these crossroads for the Ulam Tamil nation. In the 1980s, the Indian government portrayed to the world that they are the confidants of the Tamil people, but proceeded to sign a deal with the single state, ignoring all the legitimate aspiration of Tamils. Tamils were cornered into a situation to resist the occupation on two fronts, that of the singular military and the so-called Indian peacekeeping force. Today, this united nation is repeating the same procedure that will ultimately lead to the same outcomes of the years gone by. They showed the world they are the allies of Tamils, but signed a deal with Sri Lanka to implement genocidal LLRC policies. Every UN resolution has ignored the aspiration of Tamils. Even these resolutions fail to recognize the existence of Tamils and address the other nation on the island. All these resolutions and current Human Rights Commissioner's recent statements only go to prove UN are now explicitly colluding with Sri Lanka to irreversibly impose an overarching Sri Lankan identity on us Tamils to eradicate our organic Tamil national resistance. It is time for Tamils to politically rebel against any axes that work with Sri Lanka to subjugate Tamils. We should peel off the affable mask that UN chooses to adorn through naming and shaming the part they played in the 2009 Mulli-Vaikal genocide and their post-2009 alliance with the genocidal, chauvinistic singular state. The inner city press were thrown out of UN for continuously accusing the UN for their alliance with Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka assassinated journalists who spoke in favor of the rights of Tamils and justice for them. It makes many wonder about the difference between the singular state and an institution established on the ideals of global peace and security. If the UN are serious on serving justice to Tamils, who are still exposed to structural genocide and who are vulnerable to another Krishnath, the initial step would be recognizing Ula Tamil sovereignty and our inalienable right to self-determination. We are in need of a process that can halt the smooth mechanics of ongoing structural genocide, not a process that gives Sri Lanka time and space to eradicate the ancient Tamil nation from the island. It is time for us to demand our rights, raise questions against these global powers and form allies with other nations without state and working classes fighting their own oppressive regimes. It is time for us to break the global oppression with global solidarity. Tamil nation is in the hands of its children. It is a responsibility of each and every one of us to support our siblings in our homeland and stand with them and fight with them to achieve a liberated society, a liberated land and a liberated tomorrow. Let's build our nation.
Improve the relations of Sri Lanka to the United Nations. It hopes also that reconciliation will improve the relations to the Ila Tamil resistance movement. But it is mistaken in the latter case at least, because what reconciliation is demanding is a kind of insight that the government of Sri Lanka is a perpetrator who has loaded a lot of guilt on itself, and the perpetrator has to be punished, and the perpetrator has to pay recompensation in the form of giving justice to the Tamils. Now we know from the recent history of Germany that Germany after World War II had loaded a lot of guilt upon itself, and it realized that. It tried to recompensate the victims by paying, by supporting, by helping in political matters. It helped to create the building up of Israel, for example, as recompensation. In the same way, we could expect